are unable to either create their own, print their own currencies, or unable to pay off their obligations from their borrowing. And do you hear the train? Anyway, and these countries, the big countries, the Germanys and the Frances, will say, we're not doing this anymore. We're not bailing out all these nations. The voters will say that. And what you'll end up, of course, having is you will end up having a great deal of conflict on the European continent, and you'll end up having a crashing of the markets for a while when the European Union collapses, and la la la. Now, so you mark my words. If you're a gambler, go to Lost Wages, Las Vegas, and put, I'm going to put $100 down on the end of the European Union by 2021, by the year 2021. I'm sure you could get odds on that. I know you could get odds on that in England anyway. England looks like they want to bail on the EU pretty soon. But here's the thing. Going back to my erudite look, I'm going to do the next segment of the Mangry Moderate as if I were announcing a football game. Right? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Rossiter Field in Fort Worth, Texas. That's one of the places I used to announce football games. I had a great time doing that. Anyway, with regard to what Krugman is saying and the creation of money, and with regard to what Denninger is saying in terms of when you print money, you're inflating the money supply, and you are essentially stealing from those, based upon inflation, stealing from those who have been frugal and who have watched their P's and Q's financially over the last 20 or 30 years. With regard to those two separate arguments, there is a missing of the boat. And because both sides, the Krugmans and the Denningers, both sides are presupposing that we are going to live under a system in which money is created by banks, and those banks are private institutions, and they create that money based upon debts to be repaid, and that we are a system based upon debt and credit, and that the extension of credit is the lifeblood of our economy, the extension of credit is the lifeblood of commerce, and that must be the economic system that guides our global economy. And my argument is baloney. Because if that continues to be the underlying economic system that guides our economy, our global economy, if we continue to have an economic system based upon the extension of credit and debt and payment to banks of monies and interest, then we are going to eventually fall off that cliff. We are going to see ourselves 50, 100 years down the road in a system in which all democratic institutions, all global democratic institutions are going to implode, because there is no reason for those who hold financial power to support democratic institutions. If you're worth $1 trillion, what rationale would there be other than your kind of good-naturedness to support and uphold democratic institutions? Your will and your authority would be purchased. And that's where we're going to head. And we've already started to head there. I mean, you see it all the time. Our Congress, I think that our congressmen and women get somewhat of a bad rap. I do. I think that we tend to, we scapegoat them to a great extent. We say that our Congress people are inherently corrupt. I don't think that's the case at all. I think that most of the people who end up running for political office have pretty, they may be egocentric, they may be somewhat self-involved. They may they may pathologically get their sense of esteem from being reflected in the eyes of other people. But I think to a great extent, people who get involved in politics, even at the most local levels. I mean, I've worked with the select board members in towns in the Upper Valley. These are earnest, hardworking, dedicated public servants. And I would say up to our local state. I used to go up to Montpelier, and like the loudmouth, belligerent, self-righteous guy that I can be, I used to lobby. I used to yammer on about economic stuff up at the State House in Montpelier. And these women and men who are the legislators in Montpelier are earnest, hardworking, public servants. And I think that the same is true in our U.S. Congress. Look, I'm going to go on record here. Yes, I think capitalism is bad. Yes, I think the idea of being accused of being Tommy the commie misses the boat. And yes, I think that the people who work in Washington, D.C., our politicians, are not inherently self-serving, fraud, people who are always about themselves and are corrupt to the core. I think that's just baloney. I think it's a silly generalization. However, and I'm not going to say, I think they become corrupted over time. I'm not going to say that. That's like too trite and itself disingenuous. What I do think of with regard to politicians in Washington is that they don't understand money and how money is created and how our economic system has to fail at some point because you have these people who are getting too wealthy and too powerful. And if they do understand that, there's no way that they're going to talk about that. There's no way that they're going to voice their opinion about that because that would be the end of their political career. Because someone would say, you're a communist. Can't elect him to office anymore. He's a communist. Let's just throw that term out. Socialism, communism, let's throw those terms out. Let's throw those loaded terms out and let's just talk about money. Money is the lubricant for the economy. It is the mode of exchange. It is how we purchase goods. It is how we transact. We need to change how money is created. We need to change how money works. We need to change who controls money. And yeah, we need to change the fact that people are getting as wealthy as they're getting and at the expense of lots of other people and the debts of other people. We do. I think it'd be silly to call that communism, but we do. Because if we don't get to this point where we have taken away the power of the moneyed class to control our democratic institutions, and I don't mean like pulling the puppet strings of our congressmen and women, but I mean being able to purchase influence and being able to have an undue influence on democratic institutions and on the ideals of a Republican system and a democratic system, then we're just going to continue to move down that line to where we've seen other nations go, or other nations have been, or other empires have been, which have been ruled by a small circle, an oligarchy of extraordinarily wealthy, fantastically wealthy people, and the rest of the people become, serfs, peasants, whatever you want to call them, right? It's the new serfdom they talk about, right? Doesn't Dmitry Orlov talk about that? His stuff about collapse and implosion and the idea of this new evolving serfdom in America, like entering this new Middle Ages. Anyway, so babbled on for a while here. The Angry Moderate. The Angry Moderate is wearing a nice black sweater today. By the way, I want to talk one more time about this great pumpkin hand repair cream that I got today. I was a little dubious about the pumpkin. I was kind of like, what's it going to smell like pumpkins? I don't like the smell of pumpkins. Because right next to it was the lavender cream. And I was like, ooh, the lavender. I love the smell of lavender, right? But someone at the store, plus the lavender tube was really big, and this one fits in my backpack. Someone at the store said, why don't you try the pumpkin? I was like, all right, I'll try the pumpkin. Great stuff. You got to check this stuff out. Come down to the studios of the Angry Moderate here at Cable Access TV at some point, and I'll leave some pumpkin. I'll buy a tube of pumpkin Organics Repair hand cream, and I'll leave it here, and you can come test it out. It's great stuff. In any event, that's about all the Angry Moderate has to say today. The Angry Moderate, me, Dan Weintraub, would love to hear from you. You could always email me, diw1962@yahoo.com. That's diw1962@yahoo.com. Yes, 1962 is my birth year. Yes, the Angry Moderate will be 50 years old in July, expecting lots of presents and largesse from the wealthy people out there. If you're wealthy and you want to support my coffee habit, just send your checks to Dan Weintraub, CATV, somewhere here in White River Junction, and I will buy coffee until I get my heart rate up to 70 or 80 beats per, right? Because that's how I get my exercise. I coach soccer, but that's not how I get my exercise with coffee, right? I figure if I drink enough coffee, that my heart rate gets up, and then I'm able to say, yeah, I got my heart rate up today, drank some coffee, good. Anyway, that's about it for the Angry Moderate today. Remember, if a vote for a right-wing candidate is a vote for austerity. And if you vote for austerity, you are voting for increased suffering. A vote for a spending candidate, a Krugman-esque or a left-wing candidate, may be a vote in the short term for liquidity and a little bit of a respite. But until we fix the entire economic system, until we truthfully look at our system and say, we have finite resources, we have 310 million people in this country and 7 billion people around the world. Gosh darn it, we want to take care of everybody. We want to make sure that we can, to the best of our ability, uphold those ideals, not only of our founding fathers, but of men and women like Gandhi and Mother Teresa and all these human beings, these transcendent human beings who said to us all, we have a responsibility to one another. If we want to do that, we have to change our economic future. And the only way to change our economic future is to disempower the financial industry, to take the creation of money out of the hands of private institutions that we call banks, to have a government that we trust and that we believe in, create that money, and use those monies and their resources to fund any and all possible services to take care of people. Yes, our standard of living will go down. Yes, there will be less people who can afford 7 houses around the world. Yes, those things will occur. However, more people will be cared for and less people will fall through the cracks. Now, one quick point. There are many people out there who argue it's the system that we have now that creates all of our innovation. It's the system that we have now that allows our scientists the opportunity to create these, wonderful medicines and great technologies, et cetera, and so forth. If we have a government that is a good and decent Republican, I don't mean Republican right and left, I mean Republic, democratic system that uses its resources wisely in order to help create and fund and support individuals in their research and individuals in their work with technology, etc. And these people realize that, hey, instead of becoming, fabulously wealthy beyond the dreams of avarice, that they will be totally well off and that all of their needs will be met and that they will be probably much better off than a big portion of society, but they won't be gobbling up so much, then maybe we could create a system in which both things are met, in which all of that innovation and all of that human drive for betterment is fulfilled, and at the same time, the wishes of people like the Mohandas Gandhis are fulfilled also, which is, we can't let these people starve. And we can't let these people suffer like this. It's just wrong. So, The Angry Moderate is done for the day. It is October 27th, 2011. Thank you for indulging me. If you've listened to this entire broadcast, I'll buy you a cup of coffee at the Tucker Box. Come on down. I can't believe you listened. If you have something to say, you can always call up CATV. I'm just babbling on. The fact that you listen to me is kind of interesting in itself, and I wish you well. Good day.